Ecuador's crisis. I don't remember when Ecuador was considered a relatively safe country. Granted, all countries have their level of danger. When I went to Ecuador for the first time, I could remember there were a few rules to follow. Always tell your mom and dad where you are, communicate who you are with, and never be alone in the city. Those rules were pretty simple. I wasn't old enough to be alone with my cousins, so I mainly moved around with my parents. A vacation like this wasn't too bad. I never expected it to worsen, but it did. Let me give you an example. Guayaquil. Guayaquil is one of Ecuador's biggest and most important cities. It has a massive population, and it is a port city that connects it to the rest of the world. When we landed from the US in Ecuador, it was in Guayaquil. Leaving baggage claim, I got to see almost all of my relatives right then and there waiting for us. We drove 1 hour towards our destination, and everything went fine. On our most recent trip, Guayaquil had gotten so dangerous that there was only 2 people who came to see us from the airport. There was no noise, there was no celebration, there was no "it's great to see you again." It was "get in the van and let's get out of here as soon as possible." Thugs ran the streets, and we could have been mugged at any moment. There have been a total of 4 trips to Ecuador since the first one, and each time the relatives on the phone say it's just getting worse. Don't even come anymore. It's not safe. They just mugged so-and-so. What could be the reason behind all of this? Corruption, gangs, drugs? What are ways that we can tackle such an increase in violence? The general public has become scared. My parents don't ever want to go back until they see a real change in the country, and it's hard to anticipate when the change will occur. According to Galo Mayorga and Kai M. Thaler, since 2017, and especially after 2019, gang-related violence has rapidly increased in Ecuador, making a country that previously had some of the lowest levels of violence compared to Latin America amongst the deadliest and most unsafe in the world. Adding on, between 2019 and 2023, Ecuador's gangs expanded their power through numerous sophisticated actions designed to sow fear, exploit government fragmentation, and weaken state adversaries. This follows my personal experience that Ecuador's violence has been increasing, and that each year it's only gotten worse. In January 2024, the government stormed into the Guayaquil news station while on air and held everybody hostage. All the people were held in front of the camera. Yuri Garcia and Herbert Villarraga stated that men had carried long-range guns, grenades, and dynamite. They also managed to get some quotes from a journalist who was held hostage, Jose Luis Calderon. Jose Luis Calderon said the attackers menaced him and his colleagues with guns, and some of the attackers appeared to be teenagers. Calderon also said that the attackers repeated that they were from a gang called La Firma, a gang associated with the larger crime group Los Choneros, one of the gangs named as a terrorist organization by Noboa. Noboa is the current president of Ecuador and has decided to name many of the criminal organizations as terrorist organizations. Eventually, the police were able to get in and apprehend 13 people. I would also like to add something that occurred before President Noboa was elected. There was, of course, an election going on during the time I was in Ecuador, my most recent trip, back in August of 2023. I was over at my uncle's house hanging around with my brother and my cousins when all of a sudden there was breaking news. A presidential candidate was assassinated. Fernando Villavicencio in Quito, the capital, after a political rally. I remember both my parents were particularly bothered by this since he was a candidate many were rooting for. He was promising to deal with the violence. He wasn't like the others. He was directly challenging the leaders of the criminal organizations, and he was killed for it. This was a clear message. Don't challenge us. Now, the current President Noboa, has declared the gangs as terrorist organizations. Noboa has deployed the military to deal with these organizations, but according to Elias Baggett of the AP News, these gangs are backed by Mexican and Albanian cartels. This is how the current Ecuadorian president is dealing with the issue. But what are some other ways that this could be handled? According to an article by Nizar Masari, there have been different strategies to try and deal with the violence, one of which is called mano dura, strong hand. According to them, it is necessary, according to certain politicians, it is necessary to fight violence with violence and to be implacable with criminals to bring safety to all. Governments that adopted this approach include those of Nayib Bukele in El Salvador, Daniel Noboa in Ecuador, and Alvaro Uribe in Colombia. Latin America is also known for violence and corruption. Something that may help this out is police reform. Police reform. Morasi quoted, the Chilean and Nicaraguan forces in particular have been commended for building police community ties, respecting citizen rights, and engaging with local communities. The Colombian police earned accolades for increasing levels of professionalism and efficiency and initiating some community-oriented initiatives in major cities. Missouri states that the path to establish trust between people and the police involves a long process, and it has to overcome several hurdles. Reforms need to be comprehensive and must deal simultaneously with the corruption in the police ranks, with violence, and with effectiveness, including through more community-based and less repressive policies. Personally, this might be a great strategy in dealing with the corrupt cops in Ecuador, which there are many, but this doesn't seem to help a lot with the impending violence. I like Mano Dura's strategy, and so do many others. I want to focus on something else now. How are gangs so powerful? Why do they have so many people? Well, I'd say the answer is the youth. So many kids are marginalized and are at a severe disadvantage. Angela Higginson and others are looking at preventive interventions to reduce youth involvement in gangs and gang crime in low and middle income countries. There are two categories that are considered as responses to youth involvement in gang violence: suppression and prevention. Suppression aims at stopping criminal behavior from reoccurring. Ways to do that are implementing certain legislation and using police as a resource. It's sort of like stopping it completely, while prevention is more in reducing youth gang involvement through more social intervention, such as not letting the youth join gangs and rehabilitation efforts for gang members who aren't in the criminal justice system. I would like to focus on prevention since Higginson and others go into good detail about how prevention works. There are three levels of prevention: primary, secondary, and tertiary. Let's talk about primary. Primary strategies is referencing sort of like the whole population. Anyone can join a gang. Since it is about youth that is being talked about, primary prevention looks at like having community and social-based programs to enhance the life skills and resilience of adolescents. Jumping on to the next, secondary prevention. Secondary prevention strategies are strategies that target individuals who are at a higher risk of joining gangs. Programs introduced provide a mix of education, therapeutic services, and recreational opportunities. An example could be a program that provides a safe space for recreational activities. Lastly, tertiary. Tertiary prevention strategies target youth that have already joined the gang to help with the exiting of said gang and to be able to join back into society in a way that others view positively. These strategies, of course, include rehabilitation and education. An example of tertiary prevention program is the Medellin program in Colombia, which provides at-risk youth with access to long-term employment programs through state and private institutions on the proviso that gang members withdraw from their gang. What to do? Moving forward, I think if Ecuador can apply these strategies and continue with Noboa's plan of Mano Dura, then there's a possibility of change in the country. Of course, there will be pushback. It will take time. I can see change occurring. If I visualize these organizations as a sort of a humanoid structure, then applying Mano Dura is like cutting off the head of said structure. Targeting the youth and reforming them is like taking away the foundation of these criminal organizations, taking away their feet. This combo of both is what I believe will help clear the pollution that is intoxicating the whole country. Thank you very much, and this was my sort of podcast / message.